Hi everybody! Today we are going to learn the words and roots in lesson 2. These words are still about motion. For this lesson you're going to need your root card, your blue vocab connection chart, and if you'd like to you can follow along on page 9 of your workbook. The first root that we're learning today is sub. Sub means under. Make sure that on your root card you're writing down the lesson and definition for sub. It should be the next one on the list. And again, it means under. The next few words that we are going to be learning use this root. The first one is subvert. Subvert is a verb, and it means to upset, to overthrow, or to ruin. In a sentence, it might be used like this. They conspired to subvert the government, meaning they met and talked about how to overthrow the government. Now, instead of doing note cards for this lesson, as you know, you're using your blue vocab connection chart. So on your chart, you're going to write the word, the definition, the root, and then you need to make a connection. For the first one, I gave you an example, but from here on out, you're going to need to come up with your own connections. Now, connections are different than sentences. You do want to use the word in context for your connection, but there are 3 different types of connections you can think of. You can think of personal connections, meaning some way that the word relates to you in your life. You can think of a world connection, so it's a way that the word could be used or might be applied in someone else's life. Or you can think of a literature connection, which means it's a way that the word relates to or connects with a book that you've read. So for mine, I did a literature connection, and I related it to the Hunger Games. So I said that in the Hunger Games, the tributes have to try to subvert the other tributes in order to survive, meaning they have to try and overthrow, they have to try and kill the other tributes. Make a connection of your own that's either a personal connection, a world connection, or a literature connection. Once you've done that, we can go on to the next word. This next word also uses the root sub, and the word is subservient. Subservient is an adjective, it's a describing word, and it means excessively willing to yield or submissive. This word used in a sentence, she refused to take a subservient role in their marriage. Don't forget to add the information to your vocab connection chart. So you'll write the word, the definition, the root, and then you need to make some sort of connection to the word using the word in context. Remember, it can be a personal connection, a world connection, or a literature connection. At this point, if you want to pause the video to complete this word on the chart, you can, but I'm going to continue on to our next word. Now we're going to have another root. The next few words that we're going to learn are going to use this root, torquio. And make sure that on your root card you're writing the entire definition for this one, because we have another one coming up later that's very similar. So the definition for torquio is to twist, to bend, or to turn around. On your root card, go ahead and write all 3 of those definitions, and this is lesson 2. The first word that uses the root torquio is contort. Contort is a verb, and it means to twist or bend out of shape. The boy contorted his body to squeeze through the gate. And don't forget to add it to your connection chart. The next word is distort. This word is very similar to contort, so make sure you're writing down the definitions exactly. This is also a verb, and it has a few definitions. The first is to change something or to make it false. And the second is to twist something out of its natural state or shape. For example, the odd camera angle distorted her figure in the photograph. A personal connection I have for distort is that anytime I go to fairs or carnivals, I always look in those funhouse mirrors to see how my body and face are distorted. I think it's really funny. So that's probably what I would write for my connection, but you can come up with anything that you'd like. The next word also uses the root torquio, and it is retort. Retort can be used as a verb or a noun, and it means to reply quickly and sharply, often as if in reply to an accusation, or a quick, witty, sometimes biting reply. So, as an example, he barely recognized his cold voice as the retort forced its way out. That's an example of retort being used as a noun. If you're going to use it as a verb, it might sound something like this. When the ventriloquist told her dummy, "You're not very bright today," the figure retorted, "Look who's talking." In that sentence, it's used as a verb. The final word that we're going to learn that uses the root torquio is tortuous. Tortuous is an adjective. Again, there are two different definitions. The first is having many twists and turns, and the second is deceitfully roundabout or tricky. She took a tortuous path up the mountain, meaning the path had many twists and turns. However, you could also use this word to describe a person. So, for example, Tom Sawyer's tortuous plan to free Jim becomes a hardship to everyone except Tom. So, in that sentence, it's explaining that Tom was kind of deceitful in his plan. Again, don't forget to add this word to your connection chart. We're moving on to our final root for this lesson. The root is verso, and this is the one I told you was very similar to torquio. Verso means to turn or to turn around. So you'll notice that torquio is to twist, to bend, to turn around. Verso is to turn or to turn around. So make sure that you know the difference between those two. The first word that uses this root is adversity. Adversity is a noun, and it means hardship or misfortune. For example, he showed courage in the face of adversity. The example from your book states, despite the adversity of the shipwreck, the family adapts to living simply, turning their island into a small paradise. So adversities are difficulties or hardships. Don't forget to add that to your chart. Again, at any point, if you need to pause so that you have time to fill out each word on the chart, please do so. The next word is avert, and avert is a verb. It means to turn away, and it's often talking about turning away one's eyes. It can also mean to prevent. So he sped up and averted the accident, means that he sped up and he prevented an accident from happening. But you also might say that you avert your eyes from the sun, meaning you turn your eyes away so that it's not too bright. We have 3 more words. The next one is introvert. Introvert is a noun, and it's a person whose thoughts and interests are directed inward. So although interested in the public welfare, he was too much of an introvert to consider personally running for political office. So oftentimes introverts are shy and they kind of keep their feelings to themselves. Another example from your book, introverts often keep extensive journals in which they record their thoughts about life. 2 more words. This should be your 10th note card. The word is perverse. It's an adjective, so it's a describing word, and it means stubbornly doing something other than what is reasonable or required. So he perversely refused to complete the summer reading project is one example. The children took perverse pleasure in hiding from their babysitter is another example. So being stubborn and doing something that you're not supposed to do is really what this word means. If you look at the picture in the center, it shows an entire office cubicle covered in tinfoil, which is kind of funny. Obviously, that's something that you shouldn't do. That's not reasonable. The last word that we're learning is prose. Prose is a noun, and it means ordinary speech or writing without rhyme or meter. So prose is basically the opposite of poetry. For example, she writes in clear prose would mean she writes in paragraph form without rhyming, which is what most of us write in ordinarily. Prose is what we all speak and write in unless we are composing poetry, is the sentence from your book. That should be the last word from lesson 2. So make sure you have all of these words written on your vocab connection chart, and you have those 3 new roots written on your root card, and you should have everything you need for our next vocab quiz. Thanks for listening.